Hi, how are you guys? Welcome to the Out of the Box podcast. My name is Marv. I'm the host, and today we have one of the first episodes of the new season of this podcast, which will be a solo episode with me talking about one of my, let's say, topics which really defined my year 2020. And it's mainly the topic, what are you doing as a yoga teacher when you start to lose your self-practice? And I want to start off with this question because for me, it was like a really, really essential step on becoming a valid yoga teacher, as well as defining my role or my self-image as somebody who tries to bring yoga into the world. And I see a lot of people struggling with this. I get a lot of feedback, even from you guys, that in the comments and even in the DMs, that people struggling with what do I do? And I hear this even with my clients which want to progress in their asana practice, that they are not 100% sure what they should teach when they feel losing their self-practice or they feel unauthentic. And I think this comes from a different kind of sources. And I wrote a small guide about this, like a 5-step plan, which helped me last year to really, when I was teaching a lot, I was really teaching a lot online and live. And I had a small injury, how all of this happens. You skip one time, you skip 2 times, you skip your practice, then you start with, I just do what feels good. You get some new inspiration, and before you have done really anything else, you just started with teaching and you forgot about your self-practice. And at one point you feel I'm really that what I pretend to be, or am I not even a good teacher? Am I not even a good yogi myself? Which gives me the high ground to teach when I'm not even be able to hold myself practice accountable. And I think that a lot of you have the same issues. And in this 3-step guide, I was describing my process to get out of that. And I broke it down into some different categories. Today, I will just give you a few ideas from that, but you can check it out. The link is below in our Wake Up Yoga community, where you can just join for free. It's totally free. You can get the 5-step guide. So if you want to check it out later, just do so. Link is below in the description. And let's start off with what are the reasons we lose our practice in the first place. Because I think this comes most of the time from not being really grounded in what you are doing. So when you remind yourself, why did you start it yoga in the first place? Most of us started from a physical place or from a mental place. And in each position, it was that yoga made us feel better. That we had maybe we had some anxiousness, which yoga helped us with, or we had some physical pain, which yoga helped us with, or in my case specifically, you guys know this story already, I dropped into a sunrise yoga class on Miami Beach when I was I think 21, something like that. And it was amazing. And I just never did it before. And I had this feeling of, wow, in the Shavasana this is not just even more exhausting than I thought, but it's even so relaxing. And I never had this state of wow, I don't hear my thoughts, because I'm always a person who is just super creative. A lot of prana, a lot of ideas and stuff is going on in my mind, which is curious for me and really interesting, but at the same time, sometimes just too much. If you can remind yourself why you get hooked into yoga and why you wanted to explore more of this practice, you will get to feeling. And I want you to remind yourself of this feeling. Then I want that you go some steps further down your yoga journey. Not the first classes, not the first attempts in studios, not the first things, but really the first time you met a teacher or you had a class which really deeply moved you. Something which is way deeper than the experience you had in the first attempt of I just feel good from it. Something which really made you even in a sense spiritually kind of more awakened. Then in the 3rd step, I want you to find what was the point where you decided to go into teaching. And if you see this kind of timeline of your own yoga journey so far, you may realize at which point there was this high up ramp. And I think this happens a lot, that people nowadays, and I include myself with this, just come out of an interest, and it takes actually not too long for me to, it took long, but not too long before they really have a deeper inspirational feeling and like something, wow, this is even like so much more fundamental to life and to my experience in life that I want to know more. And then you start like exploring more. And then what most people do, they do a yoga teacher training because it's easy, it's bookable, it's like available for everyone. There are no like requirements in general. If you're just a bit of fit, you can do it. And it's the same price than a nice vacation, right? Unfortunately, what I think is this puts us like indirectly in the role of a teacher, even if we are not even wanting to teach, or if we are not like even able to teach. And even if you learn this stuff, it doesn't make you a teacher. We already talked about this a lot, but we have this super fast, like full on, you get information, and it's offered for you like a full course, a full like education, and you're like, okay, now I know what yoga is. It is exactly this, and I can teach that. And most of us just don't want to teach in the beginning, but how it went, you teach 1 or 2 classes, you start teaching in a hostel when you're on vacation or in a hotel, you teach for friends, and then it becomes a thing you do on the side, and at one point you lose your practice. Why do you lose your practice? You lose your practice because this up ramp is too fast. You don't have this building up of a sustainable self-practice. You don't have this long time deepening your knowledge about yoga and like even developing an understanding for, okay, there's this perspective on yoga, but it's not just this. We humans, even nowadays, more than ever, search for easy solutions, and we search for easy ways to explain stuff. We search for like spectrums from A to B. And yoga is not like this. If you see all this yoga philosophy, it starts here and it goes in like 10,000 different directions. And it's not something which is like linear. It's something which is like even nowadays evolving in different traditions and different teachers and different like kind of styles. And this makes it like super hard for us to comprehend. And what I want is not that you just take what you learned in this teacher training as like a kind of, which is kind of like a fixed scheme to make people be able to teach exactly this, but to explore where's your interest in yoga coming from. What are these feelings? What are these deep spiritual experiences you had which drawn you to yoga? Which have been these feelings which helped you yoga with nowadays? Like if it's in your body to fix like pain, or if it's in your mind to fix pain. And then really go into the philosophy, really go into like the background of yoga, go into the practice yourself and like develop why these things happen to you and how you can use these things and how you can explain this with the philosophy and how you can use this to develop your own practice. This is the fundament. If you have this in step number 2, after finding out why we lose maybe our practices, that we build a practice, something which is consistent. And I think even nowadays, where Vinyasa yoga, the most modern yoga style, is the most popular one, while it's like most accessible for the people. At the same time, on commitment as much as we ever did with like social media, with private life, in dating, in jobs, and this inconsistency which is everywhere in this world, even more than ever before. Everything is changing so fast. We don't even want to be fixed in one thing. We do the same with our yoga practice. We call it Hatha yoga, we call it Vinyasa yoga, we call it whatever we want. But in the end, it's a practice which is not sustainable, which is not consistent, because we don't want to commit to like doing one thing over a long period of time. Because what is if I change? But this is the whole point. If you practice consistently one thing, I promise you, you will change. And if you always come back to the same thing, you can observe yourself changing. And this coming back to one place every time, seeing yourself in the same situation, but you change, will give you the authority, will give you the knowledge, will give you the understanding for yourself. Not the total one. Nobody, and I tell you, none of us has the full understanding of everything. But it will give you a bit more insight about yourself. And this insight you can use to develop what you really want to do and what you really want to practice, and to have this kind of like deeper experiences with yoga. So I think we should not treat our practice as something which is like every day different, which is every day depending on our mood, depending on our outside situations. We should do what really feels good for us and which is like important for us. Even if it doesn't feel good, make our spiritual base first. Do our practice first, because it is so important to base all your decisions, all your life on that, not the other way around. We see yoga nowadays as a kind of sport or something you do for your like free time. It's not. It's a necessity. It's a necessity in this world even more than ever before, where everything is so uncertain that you have something you can come back to, something you're not dependent in anyone else. You're just depending on yourself if you do yoga. How can we do that step-free? I think when it comes to this point, it's really, really helpful, at least for me, to find a framework, to find a system which works for me. For me, it was Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. Doesn't mean it has to be for you Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. Nowadays, there are many different styles out there you can use the same way. And even if you call it completely differently, if you call it Yin, Hatha, Vinyasa, I don't fucking care how you call it. I don't want to have this debate anymore about like, oh, you're an Ashtanga, No, we are all practitioners of yoga. So what is this about? Just find a practice you develop and try to make it repetitive. Try to make it for you easy to step on the mat, knowing what you do every day. Because this is, for most people, I see the biggest blockage or the biggest thing to overcome. Oh, I feel now doing yoga, or I have the time to do yoga, but I don't know what to do, and maybe today I feel like this and not like this. No, if you start like debating with your mind before you practice, you even fall for the trap of the ego before you even come on the mat. If you find something, some salutation, if it's whatever, to do in your practice, and my typical like system I try to provide or to implement with my clients or my students is find the beginning of your practice, find a round up in the middle of your practice, and find a clear ending. If you have the ending and the beginning first, you can build up like a safe practice you can develop, and you can follow this practice. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter how you feel. You just do. It doesn't matter if something changes or not. You just do. And I know that sometimes people are like, oh, this is not healthy if you do every day the same. If you do it with awareness, you don't do it every day the same, even if you do every day the same asana. You can shift so much in your body with awareness. I think most of us are not even on this point. It's again this debate about like being already like the great yogi, or the great athlete. You're not. I hate to break it to you, but I'm not either. We're 20 years away from that, like to get into an overtraining or over like expansion of that. Just start for the next 3 months, finding a practice which is like consistently, which is repetitive, which makes it easy for you to start and to follow this system, and you can evolve if you feel like it. I can tell you it changes evenly what you wanted. So last but not least, what I think is like so important, and last but not least, I think what's evenly important is that we talk about that you integrate what you experience. And with integration, I don't mean necessarily like journaling or meditating in general, but I mean like taking out your time after practice to sit still, find a space where you can really see the difference what happened after. Just if we get this kind of like feeling after practice, okay, I did something great for me, I have this kind of experiences again, you find profound knowledge, not just about yourself, but by observing yourself, about the universe itself and about life, which gives you an authority to teach. And I think if you can integrate what you do daily, you have already so much to share with people. And again, it doesn't matter if you're like a beginner yoga teacher, if you're a teacher for 20 years, or if you're like one of those big names. I think there's not something like a certificate or like a training or like anything which like gives you the authority to teach, besides having this own insights into yourself. And when you have these insights into yourself, you can develop a system which you can provide to other people. And I can tell you one thing, there are so many people out there never have done yoga and like needing this kind of experience and needing exactly your kind of approach and your kind of understanding. But the only thing how people can relate to you as a yoga teacher and how you can relate to them properly is by having walked their way. Doesn't mean you have to be the perfect yogi. Doesn't mean you have to be the super advanced practitioner with a lot of like 3rd series, 4th series, 6th series practice. It just means that you need to know what kind of experience you want to provide to them. When I see a teacher, and I include myself again in that because I was exactly at this point, which loses the practice by teaching a lot, I see a practitioner which needs to get back to it. This is the main thing. And if we think about this clearly, I think we can highly get back to something which is like more important to that. So this is my way, how I was dealing with losing my self-practice within the last year and how I found my self-practice again. And it took me a while. It took me some steps. I came back, and I'm pretty sure it can come back to you. So don't lose trust. Don't lose the hope, and don't ignore the feeling of feeling unfit. Every feeling is there to tell you something. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't mean you have to follow everything, but it means at least you have to listen, and then you can decide. And I can tell you, practice gives you a great place to decide. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to know more about this topic, like I said, the link is below for the free school community, the Wake Up Yoga Academy. You find there some free classes, this 5-step guide. Some more stuff is coming up. If you want, just try it out. A pleasure. Like always, I would love if you can share this episode with friends, or like at least leave a review, leave a comment. This really helps me out to put out all of this content for free. And yeah, see you next time. Bye.